Streaming now on IWTV. Action Wrestling. Check our schedule for all upcoming Action Wrestling events scheduled to stream live on IWTV. Watch over 90 Action Wrestling shows on demand anytime, featuring AC Mack, Adam Priest, Alex Kane, Cruel, and more.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Business of the Business. I'm your co-host, JP John Paz. Of course, with me is my co-host, the doctor himself, Mr. Ultimate Fighters, Mr. Trumpmania, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Yeah, John, I'm excited. It's finally here. It's so fresh that I don't even have my own copy yet. I have the one that says like proof reviewer copy. So I need the new one to come from Amazon quickly. But
when do I get that? I want one of those. Damn, I want one of those books.
Yeah, I'm going to put one in the mail, and I was going to ask you for your address, and then I remembered we recently shared our addresses with a publicity manager.
Oh, okay. That's
for
right.
our free copy. So I'm just going to go to the email, and I am going to send that via Amazon Prime. So by Sunday, you should have that and be reading it already, John.
Wow, awesome. All right, now I'm excited. Damn it. Now I kind of want to stay in Sunday and wait to see if I can get in and read it that day. All right, I'm pumped. I am excited for Ultimate Fighters. Of course, your new book. You had Trumpmania, and now you have Ultimate Fighters, which is a little bit different, right? I mean, obviously we were focusing on Trump's time with the mixed martial arts world.
Yeah, for sure. It's 8 years later, so I'm better at research, better at book writing, so it'll have a different feel to it. It's definitely evolved. But it goes back all the way from the 1970s for Trump going to his boxing match, right? The fight of the century, what the state of New York was like, what the state of Atlantic City was like, getting involved there, zooming all the way through to just about 2-3 weeks ago when they announced the White House card, and then a couple days of shakeout of that. I wanted to be ahead of it, have like a book that people could prepare for the White House card to understand best what happened. If you love politics, MMA, history, Donald Trump, or don't like Donald Trump, it's nonpartisan. I am a little bit politically different from when I wrote Trumpmania. I'm more of a one-issue voter now. So I go whichever way works best for my one issue. So there's not a particular political bend to it. I tell the story as best as possible. And for the first time, there's a lot of curse words in the book. It just needed to be there. Different. It's the language of the sport. A lot of F curses, quite a few S curses. One F word that I would not put in, but explain there. I didn't, even so, I didn't want to have that in there, but it's definitely a lot of adult language.
There's a great episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and damn it, I forget his name now. God damn it, I watched the show so much I forget his name. But his one friend doesn't curse, so he goes, "Freak you, Larry, freak you." So no more, you're not like his friend anymore. Now you're kind of more like Larry. You're cursing.
The tall guy with who's actually like a stunt person.
No, not Super Dave. No, not
Okay.
Super Dave. No, this is his shorter friend. Him and the guy. They're not really friends either. They don't really get along. I don't even know why Larry hangs out with him, but it's just so funny. He's like, "Freak you, Larry," and Larry's like, "Freak you." I gotta figure out his name. Good actor, though. Good actor.
Such a great show.
Love that show. So let's go from that. Let's talk about some wrestling because there's some big news as far as TNA is concerned. What is going on? Because it seems like they're teaming up with iHeartMedia. Is that kind of the gist I'm getting here?
Yeah, it was a very good week for Carlos Silva, the TNA and Anthem sports team. First of all, we are proud to announce a dynamic multi-platform collaboration between Anthem and iHeartMedia, the leading audio company in America. This strategic partnership integrates iHeart across TNA's premium live events, weekly television on AMC, and global digital platform. By leveraging iHeartMedia's expansive nationwide audio network, we are creating new ways to engage our fans across broadcast, digital, and live environments. Pay-per-view pre-show sponsorship. iHeartMedia will serve as the presenting sponsor for all remaining 2026 TNA Premium Live event pre-shows. The Dream Seats, a premium front row experience for fans, presented by iHeartMedia with exclusive in-arena branding. broadcast integration, high visibility sponsorship of the iconic LED walkout ramp on Thursday Night Impact, national amplification, utilizing iHeart's network of radio stations and podcasts to drive TNA's major moments to a massive audience. As TNA Wrestling continues to scale its global footprint and viewership, we are looking for innovative brands to join our rosters. And then they've had this pitch for to contact them, Nicole Racine, head of sponsorships. So, John, I'm not so familiar with like modern day iHeart Radio. I know iHeart has sort of like transitioned to become a big player in podcasting. Obviously, like traditional radio isn't a thing anymore. Are you that familiar with iHeart Radio, like in today's world?
Not really. I just know that the podcast can be heard on iHeartRadio, but I'm not really honestly familiar with it at all, just as far as like its reach anymore or its popularity. But they kind of made it out, or Carlos Silva makes it out like it's a big deal. So maybe it is, and I'm just lost on that.
Yeah, I think no matter what, like even and certainly we'll look into it further and learn more. But I think even if their reach isn't so great or whatever it may be, like this is a big corporate sponsor, and that attracts more sponsors, and whatever else they get out of it is gravy. Just as an aside, I don't know her name, and I guess I wouldn't say it on here anyway, but a couple floors down from me, my wife always points out, like when she gets off the elevator, that lady has a radio show on iHeartRadio, and I'm just always curious, but I've never learned more. They met at the gym in our building. So Carlos Silva had said, highest rated TNA Impact so far, and great new deal with iHeart, a good Monday. So what was it? I think 256,000 was the latest in week. Yeah, 259,000 was the latest in week 9. So really impressive that the numbers keep growing for TNA. As we've talked about it, you would think after a debut that it would lessen. So they were kind of lucky because the debut was kind of a creative disaster. But not so shocking in that they didn't promote it that well. So the word continues to get out there, and AMC in their filings, whatever it may be, generally they just said that their AMC Plus was doing well, was a good revenue driver. So people are watching generally AMC Plus, or at least subscribing to it. So you certainly can add something to the viewership. One thing that I want to note, and of course TNA fans got mad, was that the attendance, which we'll get into in a little bit, is certainly down the first 3 months of 2026 as compared to 2025. Once this month ends, I'm going to take a look at WrestleTix and see a quarterly comparison, but it definitely feels like things have been down. But later in the week, TNA announced a renewal with Eurosport India. It's a platform that they've been on a while. A number of other wrestling promotions have passed through Eurosport India, but TNA seems to stick there. Anthem Sports, a global multi-platform media company, announced today that TNA Wrestling and Warner Brothers Discovery, don't look into that too much, it's just part of the international package, premium sports channel Eurosport India have entered into a new multi-year exclusive programming agreement. The new continued deal is set to begin in July 2027, bringing hundreds of hours of TNA's first-run original content to Eurosport's passionate audiences across India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, and Afghanistan. The agreement consolidates TNA's first-run programming under a single exclusive partnership with Eurosport India, ensuring fans across the region can continue to enjoy a host of acclaimed and exclusive offerings. Just moving through this, Impact, they also have, I think that's what's most interesting, continuing the localized Hindi language series, Pelwani Pataka. Apologies for any mispronunciations. As part of the deal, they'll also have access to specials, things like Bound for Glory and Slammiversary. John, what do you think about this continued growth internationally for TNA? It seems like such a key.
Very, very key. I feel like, I don't know, one of those things where you kind of have to keep growing internationally. I just don't know how big those markets are. I'm hoping they're big, but I'm just hoping that they just can keep continuing to grow the brand. I don't know if they're going to be globally like WWE, but at least, do something to continue to grow the brand. Yeah,
and it's always worth looking at like their website just to see what they're promoting, of like where you can watch TNA, because I think they have other distribution on through Triller and DAZN, or sometimes those things change. But in terms of the platforms that they're promoting, so USA, of course, AMC, Canada, Sportsnet, and SN360. Interestingly, UK and Ireland, just TNA Plus. Mexico and South America, Claro Sports. India, Eurosport. And then, of course, the Anthem Sports owned Fight Network. There's a version that serves Portugal, Turkey, Bulgaria, Serbia, Montenegro, and Bosnia. And the rest of the world, they show TNA Plus. So now taking a look into the live event schedule. So first is New Orleans, a double shot May 27th and 28th. And I think this is indicative of sort of like where TNA is as a live event draw at the moment. 953 tickets the first night, 553 the second night. Then you move towards the Wolstein Center on April 11th, 1,466 tickets distributed. Moving forward. So in terms of promoting the upcoming show in Syracuse, and I think this is always smart to do, Mike Santana is appearing at the Syracuse Crunch American Hockey League game on March 29th. But in terms of Syracuse itself, April 14th, 686 tickets distributed the first night, 628 the second night, and what I believe had been a while, TNA is returning to Sacramento, and at least the West Coast had been a while as well. This will be May 14th at the Sacramento Memorial Auditorium, which can house a little bit under 4,000 people. It's hosted an NXT show, TNA show, and even an AEW show more recently.
Stu Browdy, by the way, played by Don Stark, was the Curb Your Enthusiasm. Thank you, Stu. Freak you, Larry. Freak you. Yeah. Oh, so good. And his wife actually hated Larry. So that's a different story for a different day. What about ACW? What's going on with ACW? They seem like they're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, so they've really taken that mantle of NEW that had ran what is best known as the Mid-Hudson Civic Center for years and years and years, now known as the MJ Neshawat Convention Center in Poughkeepsie. It varies show to show, but generally they're really killing it in terms of, selling out and filling up the venue. Now, the most recent show was certainly a big success, 1,772 sold out, although there have been times where the venue was up to 2,038 seats. They've already announced their return May 16th. And there's been a number of shows there going back to January 2025. It looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about, about every 6 weeks to 2 months, they're running there. It looks like a really smart schedule. They've done a little bit here and there in terms of other shows, but certainly an anchor. And I think probably the most consistently best drawing independent show in the US at the moment. Sometimes it's hard to tell. There's lucha shows in Atlanta and a nightclub. It's hard to tell how often those are running now and that sort of thing. And Westchester County Center tends to do well when promotions run it, but it's not that often. But to me, this seems like the best draw. I think it's sort of a great confluence of events, meaning that it's sort of in the New York City area, but not really. I know some people who do commute from Poughkeepsie on the train, but it's pretty far. So a little bit far out that you're not going to get the major shows, but they have a nice size venue and one with history. And it's, in that Northeast area. So you have, the longtime fans there. So you're serving that need. And I think it's hard to find, but I think that's sort of the potential for semi-major independents to find these type of venues, which might just be one, but find those type of towns where you bring in enough big names, not to blow up your budget, but that where people say, oh, I know them from WWE, or a little bit, I know them from AEW or whatever it may be, or classic stars, build up your own enough size venue that you can draw some people where there's interest in wrestling, maybe hold a convention, that sort of thing. I think there's like a need, in the market for something like that, just because, WWE obviously doesn't tour that much. AEW only gets around so much that I think something like that could do really well, but it's hard to find exactly when, where, how, all that sort of thing.
Speaking of touring, what is going on with MLW? But not only touring, TV. What the heck is going on with MLW?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because we cover MLW week to week. I pop in once in a while to catch the specials on YouTube or pieces of them, but they never were like that explicit of saying like Fusion is on pause, right? Like it kind of always felt like that they were doing a weekly show, although I knew that they weren't. And when they announced that they were coming back with a weekly show, it's like, oh, okay, you guys weren't doing one. It's a little bit confusing. It also makes one think like, are they getting wider distribution? Is there a reason they're doing this? Because being sports, the footprint has gotten even tinier, but it's an amazing success story for them that, they're getting these rights for so many years from BN, and BN has allowed them to like explore other platforms and be non-exclusive. So it's like a wonderful connection for them. But this, what is it, Elgato or whatever the alcohol
Don
is.
Gato.
What is it, John?
Don Gato.
Don Gato, thank you. I knew El Gato's a cat, right?
Yeah.
Don Gato. So they've been sponsoring their shows. So that's a lot of opportunity, and of course working with the actors and so on. So March 14th, just looking back to look ahead, that was a purely sold out show at Center Stage. So great win for them. In South Carolina, things are looking great there. Almost sold out. Their debut in Tennessee is looking really good. The Melrose Ballroom is a small, it's a smaller venue. I think the Observer used to report it was like 1,000 tickets when it was sold out or whatever, but it's much smaller than that. $295 set up with some GA standing room, so they'll likely sell that one up. So MLW kind of, doing their thing. Hard to tell the financials behind the scenes, but seems to be the right venues. They sell them out. They're getting sponsorships. They're moving southward. So something's cooking there.
What about GC Dub? What's going on with Game Changer, baby?
So the match that I've long been thought that they could capitalize on, I think it lost a lot of heat, where they're now going for it as a loser leaves GCW match, Effie versus Ali. Ali Catch hasn't been around that much. Of course, Effie has been the staple of GCW. So this is one of their marquee matches on spring break, which obviously is doing quite well already. So a match where there'll be no Invisible Man or anything like that, but a unique card continuing to be built out. Something that I got a lot of attention for on X as the GCW crew noticed it, and then people kept sharing it and so on. GCW one night only at the 2300 Arena. The reserve tickets are sold out. So then there was a push to sell out the whole thing. When I look in GA sections, I could search up to 30 tickets. After that, they say they're not together or whatever, but up to 30 maybe in each GA section in the corners are still available. So that's looking good. Now, uniquely, they're going to be in Vegas before WrestleMania, but FSW Arena, so it's quite small. But 10 or more tickets remaining in the front row. April 4th in LA, that ends up generally doing quite well, but at the moment, 7 tickets or more in the second row, 10 or more in the third row. They're coming to Des Moines. They love to check off on the map different places that they haven't been. So they'll be at the Vail Air Ballroom, a regular independent stop. They will be back in the St. Louis area at Pop's Nightclub on May 16th. The Tournament of Survival is generally a good draw in Atlantic City, so they'll have that to try and pop the crowd. And we hadn't talked about this already because it was on their, one of their graphics that they were coming to Italy, but they are coming to Milan, Italy on May 24th at the Sporting Cizate, which I'm probably butchering. And that is a regular independent venue, but always cool to see independent wrestling sort of make its way out to Europe and, out to Japan.
When you're looking at just the wrestling landscape and kind of what's going on out there in the wrestling world, of course, GCW plays a big part of it, but WrestleMania weekend, it feels like they got almost too much going on. Is that possible? It just seems like there's so much going on, like Slam Fest, GCW's got their stuff, and WWE is all their stuff. Is there too much stuff going on during WrestleMania weekend?
It's interesting because I don't know if I have the capacity to do it again this year, John. If we want to talk about it, like where we went through show by show by show by show.
Oh,
so I
no,
don't
it's
know.
too much, yeah.
I don't know if there's like the same volume, but certainly I think there's a couple factors. One, less people are going to WrestleMania, right? I know some people just go to be there for the weekend and don't even touch WrestleMania, but certainly that's the driver. That's what you're trying to like pull people from, right? At certain points. And even they may go one night, but not the other. And then, what do they want to do when they're not going, if they're not watching in the room? Although I had just heard that they are going to allow it to be shown at bars and whatever. But Slamfest is probably like the biggest difference this year in terms of uniqueness. So Lucha Blog had a interesting update that CMLL talent is contracted specifically only for Slamfest on WrestleMania weekend. So Pandemonium Pro had announced that Soberano Jr. and Alcomura would no longer be able to perform. So taking away a little bit of that shine. But the Slamfest at the Palms, somebody else on X is actually counting the seat maps and all of that. Somebody with similar thinking. I'm not questioning, but their numbers seemed a little bit high, that they were sharing. They were in the low hundreds. But when you look at, and anyone can do this, of course, when you look at the CML maps, Stardom looks to be doing the best out of anyone. TJP Pro, House of Glory, Maple Leaf, like no one is doing that well. So, as we talked about, it was a late announcement. You have some known brands, but how big of a draw are they? I'm not sure how many matches have been announced. So that's kind of looking like a mess. I have to start thinking about like this promotion or, talent agency, like, right? Because they were working with in Chicago and they had a show or two that they ended up canceling out there a while ago. And now here, this live event wrestling may not be their forte, even though they have connections to everyone and maybe talent representation and unique experiences is the best. But love to see different promotions teaming up, even smaller ones. So Shooting Star Fest has its own full schedule for WrestleMania weekend at the Bazaar Bar, where you have to be 21 and over. So just to run through it quickly. Wednesday, Pandemonium Pro, Unapologetic Pro. Thursday, New Texas, St. Louis Anarchy, West Coast Pro, Marvelous Women's Pro Wrestling. Friday, Action, Big Time, Pride Style. Saturday, Pride Style. And then there's a new initiative pass, I guess, which gives you access to a number of these things.
Man, do you think, though, to be honest, is there just too much? Because how could somebody even do all that? Is there enough people to watch all those shows? You think, there's 400,000 people here. We could, spread it out, do it. But is it too much? Is there can you make money there doing that?
My feelings were at the end of last year when we looked at all the numbers that a lot of people were losing their ass. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Just because, there wasn't so much to go around. But I think partly promotional, meaning that like if you attach your name to WrestleMania in any way, it carries differently. Like if you're, a small local promotion, like you're now part of WrestleMania weekend, so that, has promotional purposes, but it's also it could be an ego thing, right? Like I just want to be a part of this or whatever it may be, networking, making connections, whatever it may be. So I don't think most promotions make money doing this, and it might even be smarter to, run a counter show. Let's say like you're in an area that just is inundated with pro wrestling all the time. Maybe while everyone's out there, you run a show somewhere else. Unique ways to think about it, but it's not automatic. I think it was sort of automatic when the first time, like a Gabe Sapolsky thought of running it, and then the Collective had their thing, and WrestleCon had their thing, but then everyone was sort of like, we'll do it too.
I don't know. Sometimes it's like, okay, there's so many people that we can capitalize on it, but then you realize WrestleCon has their footprint and they're going to have a ton of fans. The WWE world, not only do they have all their stuff going on, then they add in like Steve Austin and okay, there goes a big segment about, oh, hey, by the way, Randy Orton is signing, you know what I mean? Or whoever, and Liv Morgan. And then they get all these bunch of different. And then I was reading like Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, like almost sold that immediately. So for whatever reason, I love those two, obviously, but like people will gravitate to that. So it's just like, man, all the GCW stuff aside, all the WrestleCon stuff aside, just the WWE stuff, I don't even think you could do that all. It's just so much going on. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think for WWE, once you're there, like you're gonna get the fans, especially the like on location stuff. I think what I was reading about was stuff in Madison Square Garden, but similar things like meet with Liv Morgan for $10,000.
Yeah, Cody Rhodes' bus for 10 grand.
Yeah, with a tour guide, so it's not like he's not even gonna
Cody. Yeah, exactly.
Probably when the bus pulls into the parking lot at the end, like he gets on, hi everybody.
Yeah, I hope so.
Whatever, and then gets off, but like it's also, and not to connect it to, especially like we often hear like on Liv Morgan's side, like fans that are acting inappropriate, like because they feel like access to, like if somebody likes wrestling and, it tends to be type of people that like don't interact, on dates or whatever much, like, and then they're really inappropriate online or in direct messages and so on. I think like, as something like this takes advantage of somebody, not saying that they're the type of person that would act badly, but somebody that like, has these perceptions of like access and like they're paying. It's like taking advantage of somebody that's kind of a goof that's going to pay $10,000 to like meet a female wrestler. Now, I'm not saying that like, it could be like a hedge fund guy who has a daughter that, her hero is, Liv Morgan or whoever it may be. And, they have an amazing experience and he has the money for it or whatever it may be. Or, the mom's a lawyer, whatever, a superpower lawyer or whatever it may be. That's great. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. But I think there is a certain crossover of somebody that like, they may have some issues and in their mind, like because they've interacted with this person over X, like there's sort of a relationship there. And they're sort of like it's taking advantage of somebody that like thinks that they could be friends with someone. I don't know. It's a complicated issue. I'm not sure if that makes sense, John.
No, I totally agree. But I feel like you got to be rich to even think about not only going, but then it's like, oh, wait, we're going to be there for an extra day. We got to do something during the day. And like, you got to have a ton of money to do this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. Or, it's sometimes if somebody has that, like, is so gone that they're willing to put themselves, in debt or waste all their money on this. But, if somebody has the money, it's a good, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. Like,
of course, yeah.
Maximize
go for it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
but I think it crosses over into a culture that's like, sort of a little bit of weirdness and taking advantage.
Yes. That is the nature of the beast, unfortunately, and sadly. So, of course, your favorite topic of all time here and there with a little bit of Arn Anderson sprinkled.
Yeah. It's kind of a massive here and there, John. I was trying to think about like, how can I break this up? But none like thematically sort of fit nicely into this. So
I've got a little bit after you're done. I got a little bit here and there that is both sad and awesome. So there's an awesome one, and then there's something very sad. So we'll definitely we'll see if I can keep up with your epicness.
So I should have been following this closely. I knew about it. I was kind of curious, but I didn't pop into the ticket map until today. One FW, of course, is running the Rumble in Rome, the Arn Anderson homecoming. Everyone knows Arn Anderson is from Rome, Georgia. So sponsored by the Dalton Carpet one. This is at like a nice size venue for independent wrestling, the Forum River Center, which for arena football could hold about 2,200, but concerts up to 4,000. And, it doesn't look like they opened up the outer part of the venue and it's partial use, but like it looks like they did really well, in terms of ticket sales, relatively speaking there. So really curious to see what comes out of that. TJPW going a little bit back and forth with friend, former guest of the show, as to how these Texas shows would do. And in South by Southwest, it looked like a success, and the smaller venue there. But this College Park Center, actually, I guess the show hasn't taken place yet, so to be determined. But ticket sales haven't moved that much, 1,152 as of the last accounting for that. House of Glory big event. They started announcing some. Well, I hope they started announcing right March 21st as it's March 20th. There's some matches announced, but it didn't have the same thing, like the uniqueness of holding the event there for the first time and Mercedes Moné, whatever. And they're showing it in ticket sales at the moment, 463. Speaking of former guests of the show, Adam Abdallah, in addition to not only the unique fundraising event that he ran recently and working with GCW on the Jersey shows, is that This Is Produce. Is a new unique idea. All shows are co-produced by an active wrestler with a unique perspective, co-headlining and helping construct the undercard of each show. So best of luck to Adam, and I'll look at the shows. Brooklyn Pioneer Works, Jonathan Gresham, June 29th. Lee Moriarty, White Eagle Hall, Jersey City. Back to Pioneer Works, Rocky Romero on August 3rd and September 13th, my birthday. Jersey City and Genesis are the producers there, I guess you could call it. Something that's a really interesting article by Sofia Verrucha for Mission Local, talking about local lucha shows and what happened. So where did Lucha Libre shows in the Mission go? One promoter wants to bring the Mexican wrestling shows back to John O'Connell High School. When Gabriel Ramirez, founder of PWR, first started organizing lucha shows in San Francisco in 2008, he chose O'Connell as his main venue. Doing lucha in the Mission was perfect. The shows frequently sold out. You could see the Latino crowd show up. Our crowd embraced it. There were ups and downs over the 15 years. Ramirez put on shows. A sexual abuse scandal involving a PE teacher who helped organize the shows almost put an end to events at the school. Then came the pandemic. And then in 2023, a leak in the school's gym's roof left the space out of the commission for almost 2 years. But Ramirez always managed to bring the shows back. He held 18 shows from 2008 to 2023. Nowadays, he's stuck. Since the school gym reopened, he hasn't returned. Rules imposed by the Unified School District means he must apply for permits. The costs have become prohibitive. Real estate office broke it down to the point where it's impossible to rent a gym. By the time you rent the facility that holds maybe 600 to 800 people max, it was costing me $4,000 or $5,000 just to rent. How can I pay that much? Working Lucha Libre to pay for prom. It wasn't always like this. For 15 years, Ramirez held shows at O'Connell. He coordinated directly with teachers and administrators at the school, and it worked out well. I always made sure they were making a profit. That meant O'Connell took 100% from parking concessions and received a block of 100 tickets. The shows were fundraisers. So really interesting deep dive into pro wrestling and, soul shows and all that sort of thing. Like, I feel like it will continue to get more challenging, like with insurance and, corporate models and that sort of thing. One article that I'm not going to read, but that I recommend on ASC via the Assembly by John Morrison is a really nice deep dive into the African-American centric pro wrestling brand in the Carolinas.
So a bit of awesome news. I got to throw this out there. I know we don't really cover WWF as much, but I got to throw this out there because I think it's awesome. Long overdue. This is so cool. Newest member of the Hall of Fame, Dennis Rodman, Rod the Bod, the Rodzilla, Mr. NWO, the guy that literally was in the finals for the Chicago Bulls and ditched practice to go be in the NWO and be on TV on Monday Nitro. So Jordan says to him the next day, "Hey, Rodzilla, saw you on TV last night," and he was embarrassed because he was hoping nobody saw it. But if you know Jordan, he's a wrestling fan. If you've seen the videos of him and Flair together, Jordan is a wrestling fan and knows his stuff. So he was watching Nitro and he saw Rodman, who had just skipped Bulls practice, who, by the way, the Bulls, arguably the best team of all time. and this guy's skipping practice during that era where they're about to three-peat to go to NWO Monday Nitro and hang out with the Hulkster.
That was such a huge cultural moment. Like, it was so perfect. Like, it would have been impossible to plan it any better than that, where you had the crossover of, like, the biggest sports team, in the world, some of the most iconic basketball players crossing over into Nitro, and like just a few years earlier, and maybe later too, a few years earlier, how cold pro wrestling was, and like the type of celebrities that would cross over. It was kind of embarrassing, and here was like such a huge cultural moment, well deserved. I know WWE Hall of Fame, maybe he passed through a time or two, but certainly feels like WCW wing if they had one. But WWE is certainly the holder of record. Maybe AEW would be if they had bought them 3 years ago, but that's a different story. But congrats to Dennis Rodman and the man working towards world peace, right? Crossing over into North Korea. So many amazing stories.
I just love the fact that like people were kind of down on this Hall of Fame, like, oh, Stephanie kind of put herself in, although really it was like a surprise. But Stephanie's in the Hall, and then all of a sudden it's AJ Styles, Demolition, and Rodman. I was like, man, this is right up my alley. Demolition is awesome. AJ Styles is probably one of the greatest workers of all time, and Rodman's probably my favorite celebrity ever in wrestling. Maybe. Definitely, I mean, he's up there. I might be mentioning somebody else in a second who might be up there too, but man, he's just one of my favorite celebrities ever. And the NWO, all right, the NWO's hot. It's cool. He somehow even made it hotter and cooler. You know what I mean? Like, that was just awesome. I had the Rodman figure. They had the doll, if you will, back in the day. Oh man, I love Rod the Bod.
Yeah, no, and Demolition is awesome. They were my favorite tag team, and I remember, when I started watching 1989, something like that, and then going back like into the older pay-per-views and seeing like Mr. Fuji had managed them. I didn't know about like the original Demolition member till much later, but just like seeing their transitions, they were always awesome. I still even like, I knew it wasn't as good, but I even liked when they were a 3-man team. It was hard for me though when like Legion of Doom came in, and it was kind of like, okay, you have to go around the horn with them and lose, like kind of treating them like they were, the better tag team. Even I know people would compare them. I think they were just different, but I loved Demolition. And later on, I sort of like, once I learned more, I had so much more of an appreciation for acts like, based on Masked Superstar and, everything that he did and his friendship with Andre, and such a cool story.
Man, it was like, they were going to, get mainstream news with putting Rodman in the Hall of Fame, and they did. It was all over the place. I was just checking, and it was, ESPN, everybody's covering it because obviously he's a huge celebrity, but a huge sports figure and just a global icon, really, for Rob. So smart, obviously, by them to do that, and maybe long overdue. Maybe he should have been in earlier. But like you said, he was WCW, NWO. He's not really a WWE guy, but I love that they put him in. Smart.
And I have a media prediction. Front Office Sports will probably have an exclusive for Dennis Rodman and follow him around Hall of Fame weekend, now that they are working together, a quasi promotional, quasi journalism.
Is that like not a dig at the dirt sheets, but is that a way to say like we're going to give the real stories that they, not BS? Is that like one of those type of thing, or no? This is like a TMZ kind of thing.
It just feels so like co-opted, I mean, obviously, like most people that if they get any access to pro wrestling, like if they're in the room to ask questions, unless they screw up, that it's something that they love and they want to stay in favor, and it's always going to be slanted that way. But this is just like so on the nose that it's hard to take it seriously at all.
I don't know. It's one of those things. It's just like, is that really necessary? Is that needed? But I don't know. I guess they feel like that's the way to go about it. But it's like, I don't know if that's going to be too popular, but we'll see.
Yeah, you're like controlling the media. I guess it's planning for whatever the next scandal will be, that you can get it suppressed by some of the bigger outlets.
So another WWE news, so to speak, because he wasn't WWE, he was a celebrity appearance in WWE, should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and he met Donald Trump at WrestleMania 7, if you're going to remember correctly. This is really sad news to me, just because I love this freaking guy. But Chuck Norris passed away today at age 86. So RIP to Chuck Norris. I don't know if you saw this or heard about this. Very, very sad news for the absolute legend.
Yeah, sorry to read about that, and he's awesome. And like my earliest engagement was not through the movies or anything. I had the action figures.
Yes, from the cartoon show. Yes, I forgot about that.
I
So
had
good.
like
Yes.
3 versions of Chuck Norris, which hurt.
Yep.
You know, like you
Yes.
squeeze the legs and go and whack you in
Yes.
the arm. You know, especially as a
Oh
kid,
my
it's
God.
very
Wow.
good.
Yes. Great memories. Oh my God. You're so right.
And I like the generic bad guys too. It was just like a fun set. I don't think I ever saw the cartoon. I'm not sure how I got all these, but I just
Oh,
loved it. And of course, like the WWF stuff, like in the what was it mid 90s, was like
yes. Yep.
it's a very down period, but it's just fun. And I'm waiting. Obviously, first we have to mourn him, but I'm waiting for the people to like do the things where it's like, Chuck Norris is the one that beats
Yes.
whatever. Like, I'm waiting for those memes to come. And I think
Yep.
those, will be more of a celebration of his life, because he was awesome, a man of a different era, not to be duplicated. Seemed like a good guy. And rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Got to throw out there, Walker, Texas Ranger would always have randomly great wrestling appearances. Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Macho Man, and Sting. And of course, Macho and Sting got their ass beat by Chuck, which was great episodes. But it's just awesome, like that he would do that because he was such a wrestling fan. He loved those guys, and obviously they're so famous. They're, some of the obviously Macho, Hulk, and Piper like almost equally as famous as Chuck. So it's like, man, just what a cool crossover that he would have those guys on Walker Texas Ranger, which was a great show, by the way.
Yeah, those are so fun to see, like wrestlers crossover, especially back then. It was like, what was the show that Bret Hart was on? Because it feels like the same sort of time
Lonesome
period.
Dove.
Oh, so no, okay, there you
Yeah.
go. Like I know WWF
Yeah.
would promote it like crazy just because, like, it was a crossover, and that was just so hard to get.
It's so funny. Like I sometimes getting a Chuck Norris kick, if you will. Like I got to watch his movie. So Delta Force, so freaking good, and the theme song from Delta Force will get stuck in your head for weeks, if not months. But Delta Force 2, Missing in Action, Lone Wolf McQuade, Silent Rage. One of my favorite, Invasion USA. Just so many awesome movies. If you love '80s action and stuff, I just love Chuck, and it's funny. Amazon just keeps recommending me because I watched you watch Delta Force nonstop, like Code of Silence. Watch next. They just constantly. So I love Amazon for that. So great job. Keep recommending me Chuck Norris movies. But I got to say, R.I.P. Chuck Norris, absolute legend. And if you really want to check out his fighting background and like see how legit he was, his record, he was like 183-10. They were saying he tapped out BJJ specialists that he used to train with, the Machados and the Gracies. So legit badass. I mean, he's weighed 185 pounds, whatever it was, but legit badass. Could be strong as how they said his grip. You couldn't break his grip. Just like one of those guys. Not necessarily say that Bruce Lee isn't a tough guy because that's another awesome movie that Chuck is in with him, Way of the Dragon. But Chuck was like a legit badass, like training with Benny Urquidez, could like beat guys' asses. John Claude Van Damme said he was afraid, who's a former kickboxing champion, said he was afraid to fight Chuck. So just a legit badass tough guy. Just R.I.P. Chuck. He's just awesome. I literally could go on for hours about Chuck. He's just amazing.
No, I'm so glad you mentioned those first movies, because like it's coming back into my brain now. Like I totally forgot. I love Delta Force, and I forgot the other one you mentioned, but
Missing in Action.
Yes, those are awesome. And yeah, those
Braddock.
were,
Yeah, he's Braddock. Yeah. So,
when he
so
can
good.
still do movies like Rambo and all the violence, RoboCop, expanding out, into all the action movies. But those were the good old days.
Ah, man. Damn it, Chuck. Damn it. It was 86, but damn it. And of course, got to mention this one final time, Lavie. Got to throw this out there. Ultimate Fighters. So let's wrap it up and head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie?
Yeah, so Ultimate Fighters, check it out on Amazon. Would love to hear what you think. Support what I'm doing on here. And stay tuned for a standalone podcast that John and I have to coordinate soon.
Yes, we got to do it for sure. Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.